Hello everyone, it's Skye here from the Franchise Tag, here to bring you my divisional preview for the NFL playoffs this weekend. 4 incredibly exciting matchups. Let's start with the Houston Texans going on the road to take on the Baltimore Ravens. As we've mentioned on the show, Coach of the Year potentially in Baker Mayfield and Rookie of the Year with Stroud going up against a Ravens team, which are a lot of people's Super Bowl favourites. They're looking to put away demons from the past from that 2019 playoffs, when arguably, they were one of the favourites and should have won it, but they lost to another AFC South team in the Tennessee Titans. They're much, much better now, though, the Baltimore Ravens. Todd Monken's offence is clicking. Mark Andrews has been activated off IR. We saw Isaiah Likely step up while he's been out. So essentially, or potentially, the Baltimore Ravens could run 2 tight end sets with Likely and Andrews, and then you've got Flowers and OBJ as the receivers. So that's pretty scary, for this Houston defense to go up against that. But I have to applaud what Houston's defense done last week against the Cleveland Browns. Some of you may have seen the video of DeMeco Ryans coaching up the linebackers. It was Christian Harris and he has Steven Nelson. There were 2 pick sixes for the Houston Texans. It was a huge win. The Texans sort of have that 2021 Cincinnati Bengals feel to them. I don't want to rule out CJ Stroud because the rookie quarterback has been phenomenal throughout this whole NFL season. But the Ravens defense leads the league in sacks with 60. They've been so good at getting pressure up front, and I think Baltimore gets this one done at home. And yeah, scoreline-wise, I'm going to say 30-17 to the Baltimore Ravens. Next, we have the Green Bay Packers taking on the San Francisco 49ers. What is there not to love about Jordan Love? After hyping him up in the offseason, I'm feeling quite good now because, Jordan Love has been playing lights out. I spoke last week about, the form he showed during that 6-2 run to end the regular season. Then they go to Dallas, beat the Cowboys in a phenomenal win. And for anyone who watched last week's video, yes, I did predict the Cowboys to win, but you'll know that I said that the Packers could take optimism in Dak's losing playoff record because when the lights were brightest, they didn't deliver. And now the Packers, they're going on the road to the 49ers again. Probably a team who a lot of people picked to win the Super Bowl, including myself. But if the Packers are aggressive again on 4th down and, to try and get the ball first and put pressure on the 49ers, then, potentially there could be another upset on the cards here. For me, I still stand by the 49ers probably being my Super Bowl pick. I think they probably have the most talented roster in the league. They just need to ensure that Brock Purdy and, more importantly, the offensive line doesn't allow the Packers pass rush to get pressure up front, and he can get those quick passes off to the likes of George Kittle, Aiyuk, Deebo Samuel, and the main man, Christian McCaffrey. If he gets it done on the ground and Green Bay are not able to win the time of possession, then essentially the Niners can do what they do, win that, and probably get this one done. I've had a look stats-wise. Brock Purdy and Dak had a very similar regular season. Brock Purdy had 69.4% pass completion through 65 games. Dak was 69.5 in 17. Purdy had 5 less touchdowns with 31-36 with 2 more picks, 11-9. But a deciding factor for me in this one is despite the fact that, yes, the Packers have a chance, despite the fact that, yes, Aaron Jones had another phenomenal game last week, over 100 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns, I still think that San Francisco win because Brock Purdy is averaging 9.5 yards per pass, which leads the NFL among all quarterbacks who played over 15 games. And weirdly enough, the only guy above him in that category was Mason Rudolph with 9.7. We've seen Purdy can handle the pressure last season when he stepped in the playoffs. Before he went down and got injured against the Eagles. He had 3 touchdowns and 0 picks with over 300 yards and 60% completed passes in that 41-23 win over the Seahawks, and then had another turnover-free game in the next round against the Dallas Cowboys. So, yeah, I'm going for Niners to win. We know that the Packers have some injuries in the pass rush department as well, and that will limit their potential for this one. So, I am going to go for a 34-23 win for the San Francisco 49ers. Then we move on to the Buccaneers versus the Lions. And while there was some hesitancy there for me to, hone in on the Niners, I am convinced on them and the Ravens a lot more than this matchup. This one is going to be incredibly tight. It's going to be tough. Jared Goff got his revenge over Sean McVay in the Wildcard round last week. And obviously the Lions ended 30 years of hurt in that one. I know I said the Rams will win that game in the video last week, but anyone who follows me on Twitter would see that an hour before kickoff, I basically changed my mind and said the Lions would win. I think it helps that Sam Laporta's back. Yes, he only had 3 catches for 14 yards and a touchdown, but he'll be even healthier this week and potentially could be the biggest factor in this game against the Tampa Bay defense, because we know that Jared Goff's performance slightly dips when he goes against a blitz, and then head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Todd Bowles, likes to blitz. So that will be the key in this one. It helps that the Lions have that great running back duo with rookie Jamar Gibbs and David Montgomery. They've got Amon-Ra St. Brown as Jared Goff's trusted guy. And yes, they have a really good chance of making the NFC title game. But don't rule out the Buccaneers. Yes, they beat the Eagles, who didn't have A.J. Brown, but the likes of Levante David stepped up on the defense. Jamal Dean had a nice game at the corner position, and we know that Antoine Winfield Jr. can be a difference maker at safety. I really think that, the Buccaneers have a chance here. Baker Mayfield's found a home. We saw how key Cade Otton was last week. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin are fantastic receivers. Rookie Trey Palmer showed up. And, it's just going to be really interesting, especially with even journeyman David Moore, who a former Seahawk, had a big game last week. And I really don't know where my head's at. Baker Mayfield was throwing the ball with zip last week against the Eagles, and I think it's probably going to go 27-24 either way. Right now, I'd probably lean towards the Buccaneers, but as the week goes on, that might change to the Lions. But scoreline-wise, I'm just going to say 27-24. And then finally, we have the Kansas City Chiefs going on the road, as you would have heard by now, unless you live under a rock. For the first time in Patrick Mahomes' career, he's going to be playing a road playoff game in Baltimore. It's going to be really, really hard. And this is arguably the neutrals game of the week, with it being another installment of that Mahomes-Josh Allen rivalry. Even in defeat last time in the playoffs in that epic overtime game, Josh Allen managed to play phenomenal. I think for me, he's playing the best football of his career right now at the quarterback position. He has that sort of gung-ho mentality that Roethlisberger and Brett Favre had. And, as much as they're both Hall of Fame quarterbacks, and I'd probably compare him more to Brett Favre in terms of the way he plays. He's always taking risks, but he seems to have sort of taken it out of his game somewhat. And, that kind of haunted both of those quarterbacks' postseason careers. But Josh Allen really seems to be tuned into winning a Super Bowl this year. And I think the Bills, with the form they're in, have a really good chance of doing that. We also saw his incredible 52-yard touchdown run against the Steelers, which shows how incredibly dangerous and dynamic he could be. Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid, 2 fantastic tight ends. Shakir, been really good as the other receiver to Stephon Diggs. Gabe Davis didn't practice yesterday. He could be out, and he loves playing against the Chiefs. But I think even if he doesn't play, the Bills have a lot of talent on that offense. Let's not rule out the Chiefs' defense, though. I know Tua can't really play in the cold, and that's been a narrative since they beat the Dolphins. But they did keep one of the most prolific offenses in the National Football League to only 7 points. And I think, for the Chiefs, the difference makers here are probably going to be the defensive players. Nick Bolton at linebacker, only 23 years old, had a good game last week. Will he step up? We all know the obvious players with Kelsey, Rashee Rice, Pacheco and Mahomes, but the defense is really going to have to help out a stuttering offense for the Chiefs. And I think the difference maker for the Bills, for me, is James Cook. We know he can get it done in a passing game for Josh Allen. Last week had 79 yards on 18 carries. And I think, he could be the key factor in this one, with Buffalo getting a win. And that's where my head's at. I've said that the Ravens could win the AFC title, and that all year they would go against the Bills. Maybe the Bills will beat them when they get there, but that's the matchup that I want, that I hope for, and that I'm predicting. And I'm going to say a 31-23 win for the Buffalo Bills. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Stay tuned for plenty more content coming from the franchise tag, not just this weekend, but over the entirety of the NFL postseason, and enjoy the 4 games.